You have no sympathy for that man.
Zero.
Death penalty. How do you feel about the death penalty?
Well, I like the death penalty. We should have, instead of an electric chair, we should have an electric bench, so we can put them all on the bench together and, light them up all at once.
You're not joking.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
Tell me why.
Well, because the only people that get the death penalty are cold-blooded, first-degree murderers. They're vile, they're nasty, they're dangerous. And as a result, we need to give them a fair trial. We need to give them the appellate process, because I believe in our criminal justice system. So once you've had your trial, and once you've had your first appeal, your second appeal, heck, give them 3 appeals. Then we need to light them up or shoot the juice to them, whichever way the state wants it. But at that point in time, understand, this is not a couple of drunks that got in a fight and one shot the other at a bar. Okay? Both of them were involved in an event. This is somebody who premeditated a murder of an innocent person who had every right to walk the face of the earth till they grew very old and died.
How do you think a child predator, a 40-year-old man, sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl or a 10-year-old boy, what do you see? Do you see death penalty for them as well?
Oh, absolutely. That's more horrific than murder in my estimation, because
is that the highest for you?
Well, you cannot by law. Well, we just instituted capital punishment for sexual battery in Florida. I have every confidence the United States Supreme Court's going to strike that down. They already have. They shouldn't, but they will. I just believe that. But at the end of the day, I am more mortified by someone that would physically torture and abuse and sexually batter a child than I am someone that gets in a fight with a guy at a bar and shoots him.
How many death penalties have you been a part of?
Oh, I don't know. Several. I mean, you lose count after a while.
More than 10?
I don't. Yes. In some command capacity, yes.
And have you been there watching it happen or no?
Oh, I've gone to see one.
And how was that experience?
Well, it was anticlimactic. It was after they used the chemical drip. And I can describe that to you. First, if we have time, I'll tell you the story. There was a guy by the name of Eddie Wayne Davis, and I don't remember names well, as you can tell, but Eddie Wayne Davis attacked a beautiful little girl, Kimberly Waters, who was 12 years old. He sexually abused her. He threw her into a dumpster and covered her up with trash. Well, we started that investigation. First, it was Kimberly was a missing persons, and then a friend of mine who's now the police chief in Auburndale was one of my deputies at the time, found her in this dumpster. So the investigation began, and we had been working around the clock. Well, we pretty quickly focused in on Eddie Wayne Davis. We had to have evidence. I created a relationship with him, a friendly relationship with him, because we suspected him, and we would need to talk to him.
How'd you do that?
Well, because I did it by asking him, hey, because we were searching his house and we obtained blood evidence, but we didn't have any of that back at the lab. So I offered, hey, are you hungry? Would you like cigarettes to smoke? I just treated him nice.
This is after you know he did it, or this is when you're speculating that he did it?
Speculating.
Okay, got it.
So,
and by the way, just
I knew he did it, but we didn't have the evidence to arrest him.
Are you 100% or 80, 90% he did it?
No, I'm 100%.
What caused you to be 100%?
Because I've done this a long time.
Oh, okay, got it.
And I saw the way the event went, and I saw his body language. You don't just speak with your mouth. You speak with your body language. So anyway, we made sure he was comfortable, and we treated him like a gentleman, and we created this relationship. The law said once you lawyer up, the only way you can take a confession from someone without their lawyer is for them to reinitiate the investigation or the interview or want to talk to you. So anyway, So it comes time to for the formal interview when we have enough probable cause to arrest him. We still don't have the lab back on the blood, but he lawyered up, and we put him in the holding cell while we're preparing the affidavit, my detectives.
Mm-hmm.
I walked back and forth in the hallway, hoping he would look out of that cell, and he did. And he looked at me and said, "Mr. Grudd," didn't know my name was Judd, "Mr. Grudd, come here." And I walked over to the cell door and I said, "Eddie, you've asked for an attorney. I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore according to law. The only way I can talk to you is for you to reinstitute, to begin the conversation, to ask me to talk to you. Other than that, I can't talk to you till you talk to your attorney." I turned and started to walk out, and he said, "Please come back. I want to talk to you." I sat in that cell with him while he sobbed, and I wiped his nose and patted him on the back while he confessed to the rape and murder of that 12-year-old girl.
Are you kidding me?
I had to watch him die as a result of that. That was one of the most horrific things that I've ever seen, and there are details that are shockingly horrific that I'm not going to share out of respect for Kimberly, the baby that was murdered. I went up there that day. They had a saline PICC line in his arm when they opened the curtains. They asked him if he had any last comments to make, and he shook his head no. And then they put there was 2 drips in there, 2 different combinations. One was to render him unconscious, and the other was to stop his heart. And it was a very peaceful passing. And here's how I equate it. If you've ever had a surgical procedure, and you're laying there and they have the saline drip, and the anesthesiologist or the anesthetist says, "Okay, now count backward from 10, and you get to about 7, and you go to sleep." That's what it was like. It was anticlimactic, and your inner soul says, "I wish he'd have suffered some."
Really?
But your faith in God says it is the way it should have been.
Does it cause you to want to go find out how does a person get to something like this? I brought a guy on a podcast a few years ago, and he was from Britain. And what he did is his job was to interview people after they killed somebody, to sit down with them and find out if they did it or not. And he's just sizing up the body language and all this stuff. And he told me a lot of these stories, what he did. And I said, what causes somebody to get to a person to do something like this? And the way he broke it down was so interesting. He says something about the way you're born is why you pull the trigger. Life experiences is what gets you to think about pulling the trigger, and then your parenting and upbringing. He's given me this breakdown how it is. Having been around all these people, like, where do you go to say what causes a guy like this? I think he died at 45. I just looked him up right now to see, he was born September 12, 1968. He died July 10th of 2014. So this is just 10 years ago. This is your 10-year anniversary of going through Eddie Wayne Davis. Did you come home at night, you're talking to your wife, do you ever go and say, the hell made this guy do this? Was it his father? Like, do you want to go meet their parents, their mom, their dad, to see what causes a person to flip like this? And can we do anything for future Eddie Wayne Davis to not do it again?
First and foremost, these people, psychopaths or sociopaths, they have no conscience.
They're born that way, you're saying.
The overwhelming majority of the people on death row are sociopaths and psychopaths. It's not just an emotional thing. I hear, and I call them the liberal do-gooders. Oh, well, we shouldn't send him to jail for so long, or we shouldn't send him to the electric jail because he's mentally ill. Well, of course he's mentally ill. Normal people don't murder people. Of course, there's something wrong with all of them. But the reality is, after I watched Eddie Wayne Davis die that evening, as a result of the state of Florida saying this is the penalty you pay for raping and murdering this beautiful 12-year-old child, I went home and slept peacefully all night long.
Why?
I saw justice done.
Did you make a phone call to the parents? Did you speak to the parents?
We had communications with the parents. Some of the relatives came to watch the execution as well. So the bottom line to this is we have the best country in the world. The United States of America is the best. The people overwhelmingly in this country are awesome people. There are a few troublemakers. There are a few deviants. And that's who we deal with, is the deviants and the troublemakers. Otherwise, we're doing public service and helping people.
Well, I mean, you went home and you slept. Did you go home, sit up for 2 hours talking to your wife and all? Nothing.
Oh, no, not at all.
Did you even bring it up to your wife? You're like,
no, we didn't talk.
Are you serious?
No, she knew I was going to watch that. She was a judicial assistant to a circuit judge and was an administrative assistant at the state attorney's office, and then for a very prominent judge. I mean, for a very prominent defense attorney. So, it's just business. We go home and we talk about fun stuff like kids and t-ball and let's go take a swim in the pool before we go to bed tonight. We don't. The other stuff's business.
You guys definitely don't Netflix and chill, though. You don't seem like you're a movie guy.
No.
Yeah, it's not you. So the guy I interviewed, his name is Jim Clemente. He was a former FBI guy.
Right.
Worked for FBI for 22 years, if you can pull it up, where he was an expert on child sexual abuse, victimization, abduction, and homicide. Yes. Okay. And he was an expert in criminal behavior profiling. When I asked him the nature that produces serial killers, here's what he said. Genetics loads the gun. Personality and psychology aims the gun. Experiences in your life pulls the trigger. Do you agree with that?
Part of it.
Which part do you not?
Well, first off, those folks are sociopaths. So put that off to genetics or psychology or whatever. But I don't believe that anyone is just a product of their environment. I think there is personality disorders. I think there's anger management issues, but these folks are angry and bitter, and most all of them that do first-degree murders are sociopaths and psychopaths. And by the way, we don't have as many serial murderers. At least we don't see them as much as we used to. Do you know why? We have more technology. We have DNA. We catch them quicker.